So welcome back to the OG Vida podcast. Today we have a special guest. Firstly arrived from Texas. Jay.
Hey man, that Texas made Mexican, aka lilJay from the O. We just touched down in LA all the way from Texas, man. So Texas and Cali collab. I really appreciate OG Vida podcast for bringing me out here, and networking. Whenever brown people come together, beautiful things happen.
Thank you for coming through, brother.
Yes,
Appreciate
sir.
you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. For having me.
With that being said, who's Jay? You mind to introduce fully yourself, your first name, last name,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
how was your upbringing?
Yeah, so my stage name I go by lilJay from the O, aka that Texas made Mexican. But my real name is Jacob. Jacob Zapata. I'm from Austin, Texas. Just basically another, one of those typical ghetto kid stories. Everybody. I feel like everybody has their own struggles and their own issues that they go through growing up. And yeah, I mean, coming from Austin and the east side of Austin, I feel like I had my own challenges coming up.
Yeah.
I lived in a poverty neighborhood, didn't have, the best type of I would say role models around me growing up. Um so yeah, it was I got a total of 7 siblings.
Okay.
Uh, the ones that I know immediately are the ones that I grew up with, and those are from my mom's side. And then kind of just never really met my dad. Um, so just trying to, basically, live, deal with that type of that typical lifestyle or
Yeah.
household, with no father figure, just kind of your mother bringing
Yes, sir.
you up. So
Well, shout out to mom,
shout out to mom.
holding it down. You know what I mean? So how was growing up out there in Austin, Texas, school and stuff like that?
I went to Blackshear, which is more predominant for African Americans. It was a little bit mixed with Hispanic and
Yeah.
gente,
Mhm.
but majority um, African Americans. So um, when I went to that school, I feel like it was one of those situations to where like I was outnumbered a little bit.
Okay.
Just as far as not really having somebody like a friend or anybody to talk to growing up as my childhood, other than my my siblings and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, typical just growing up at Blackshear. I went to Zavala Elementary. Shout out Zavala. Um, went there. Um, Went to Martin Middle School. Ended up having my first kid around like 16.
Okay. I was young.
Yeah, very young. So I had to leave school around that time. I think it was like my freshman year.
Wow.
So just trying to basically running through life, thinking that I want to grow up so fast and be my own man and do all these things. Um, but I feel like life had a different story for me. So
Yes, sir.
but yeah, man, starting at Blackshear Elementary, ended at Eastside Memorial High School. Uh, and that's kind of where that life for me kind of ended in a when I had my child. That was kind of like a new beginning um to a different.
Was that a more like a wake up call to be more adult adultish? You know what I mean? Because you're
Exactly.
16,
I
right?
think it was more just being aware of the responsibilities that came with being a father. Because I was so, like I said, I was so fast on trying to grow up and be a kid and just live through life fast. I wasn't necessarily understanding what comes with that when you actually, when you become a father,
Yeah.
when you have a kid. So I feel like it challenged me
Okay.
to either be better or um, be the same type of household that I was living up in.
Yeah.
So
So your son is born, at 16 years old, and I'm pretty sure that's a really drastic change.
right.
You know what I mean? We're expecting Pampers and now making sure that it's not you just being fed. Now you have somebody else that you need to taking care of, right?
Right.
So what was your first job that you got yourself into?
So when I first started, when I had my child, obviously, and I had a girl.
Hmm.
So I felt like the pressure was on me a little bit more just because, I had a little baby girl to look over now. So I immediately went to work. My first job was at Chipotle. Um, that's kind of where I started at. Just I was honestly just eager to make money. So any job that called me back at that time was Chipotle. I worked there probably for about 3 months, and I found out real quick that that type of setting of work. And prior to me even like having a job, like I said, I never had my dad in my life, but I always had my stepdad in my life.
Okay.
Um, and my stepdad, that's a different relationship. But it's one of those things where every morning and every weekend, uh, if kids are out there playing in the park and stuff like that and having fun. I was at work picking up a shovel, laying some concrete and doing
Gotcha.
stuff like that. So that was the work that I was used to as a kid growing up
Yeah.
dealing with. So when I went, had my kid, and started doing the fast food stuff, I immediately knew that it wasn't something that I wanted to do. So I picked up plumbing. I was doing plumbing for a while. Um, Honestly, all I did for the first 2 years was just a shovel and dirt. I was just a labor.
Okay.
I would just dig ditches all day for
Wow.
2 years. For the main lines, whenever we'd run a trench for any rather it be a trailer house or a condo or whatever it may be,
Hmm.
that's what I would be doing.
Gotcha.
And then slowly it just graduated into me being labor to going on to actually, running calls and doing stuff like that. Um, so yeah.
So you being a doing plumbing job and you change your ways from fast food to a plumber. Um, how did that being a rapper of music, was that in the back of your head, or how did that begin?
Yeah, I feel like being a rapper has always been something that I always wanted to do, and always it's always been a part of my life when it comes to making music, whether it be making a beat, listening to music, or actually creating a song.
Hmm.
It's just always been something that I use to vent. That's all it was ever for. It's just for me to kind of just get my thoughts off my mind that I couldn't necessarily express with another person. So I'd put it on a song or I'd put it in a beat, and for the longest, all I would do and was go to my closet, make a song, and I'd put it on SoundCloud. So I was really truly the definition of a closet rapper for years. Um, and then slowly, like everything else, I feel like the more you do it, the more better you get at it. And I always, like I said, music has always been a part of me. Even when I was doing the plumbing, even when I was doing the Chipotle, even when I was, 16 years old, found out that I had my first kid. The music has always been a way that I could go jot down my thoughts and basically express how I would feel in that moment, in that time, in that year, just period. So I would do that for so long, and I had showed one of my friends one of my songs that I had made. It's Hard Way. It's just a very a real insight to my life and how I was raised and kind of my surroundings and what I was exposed to in that song. And when I showed him it, he was kind of the one that convinced me to take it a little bit further. And that's when I started doing open mics, investing into my recordings, shooting actual videos, paying for photographers to pull up and
Yeah.
actually, invest a little bit more than just time
And
into
so
it.
your plumbing work was paying for all of.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I was still 24/7. Even if I would go do a music video last night or go do a show last night, that next morning I'd be running a call, or installing a water heater, repiping some type of water main.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that was my bread and butter, man. And that's basically how I was able and still able to go so hard with my music. but at the same time still deal with what's at home,
Hmm.
because the bills still come in,
That part.
and like I don't got no backup plan. I don't got no, nobody to call on. I don't got no, I don't got none of that. So whenever I miss a step, or whenever there's a bill that isn't paid, or whenever I lack on something, it's not, it's not just me that hurts. It's,
Yeah.
I got a whole family to think about. So yeah, that's kind of what motivates me, is my family, the future, just kind of, knowing what could be, versus what it is.
Got it. Is your family supporting? Your mom? Your
Very supporting, very supporting. Um, when it comes to my mom, I feel like she's like my rock. She's like one of the people that I can really depend on. It don't really matter what it may be.
hmm
Um, Before I even ask her, I already know that she's gonna be able to do it for me.
That's dope.
And it's just kind of one of those situations where I never had that with my father, or my stepdad. So she was the only one that I could get that relationship with.
Hmm.
And I feel like it's harder to have that relationship with your mother, just because, you know there's a lot of things that you don't, as a boy, or as a man growing up. There's some things that you keep away from mom, right?
Hmm.
But I feel like our relationship has always been one of those things where, like, I could always be an open book with her.
That's great.
So she accepts me for who I am, and she sees me for who I am, and if anybody knows my story, she knows it down to the T. But aside from that, my wife, my kids, everybody, that I feel like my circle around me, they're the ones that really pour into me, that allows me to pour back into my music, into how I go about hopping on these, the podcasts, and just kind of, having that courage, or just kind of that certainty, that it's not just necessarily me that believes in myself, but I have a whole team behind me that, that sees the vision.
Yeah.
And yeah, man. So yeah, when it comes to support, I got a lot of support. Shout out to mom, shout out to my babies, and then shout out to the wife. So
That's right.
yeah.
That's right. Who's Jay's favorite artist, music artist?
Man, right now, I I would say right now, my favorite artist, I would say coming up and that is mainstream right now, it would be probably around uh like Rollo, which is he's a different type of artist,
Hmm.
and Rod Wave, and these type of artists. And the reason why I say that is because I feel like the music industry right now is so oversaturated with bullshit.
Okay.
You know, um, and when I say that, I'm just talking about necessarily stuff that don't really, you hear it on the song, but it really doesn't correlate to your life, or actually mean anything to you, versus like when I listen to a song that has substance and I can take something away from it. I feel like that's music you can use.
Okay.
And that's kind of more music that I can
Relate to?
relate to, for sure.
What type of music do you grow up listening to?
Man, all types of music. When it comes to like jazz, R&B, hip hop, rap, Latin hip hop, reggaeton. I mean, down to, anything and everything. I feel like I was exposed to a lot of good type of music. When it comes to my stepdad, because he was always on the Cuba Kings or the reggaeton, so I always got exposed to the Mexican, rap, and everything that was going on that side. And then I had my mom, where she was more on the Latin hip hop side, and I would learn everything about, Stevie B, and Summer Nights, and all those. And then you got your Little Rob and stuff like that. And these are cats, and the music that I was exposed to. But of course, I was exposed to, like, Dr. Dre, rap, all different type of genres, country music, you know, um, all types of music. Anything that like I said, anything I can take away from it, I'll definitely listen to it.
That
So there's the list can go on as far as what's in my catalog, and when you press play on my playlist, what you gonna hear?
So the majority of your songs that you have created, you have made them yourself, or you have someone that helps you?
Nobody ever helps me in my process. Everything that you hear, other than the beat that was made by somebody else, as far as like the lyrics, everything, that's all me. I don't ever try to and respect to anybody that does, that goes that route. But me personally, I try to keep it genuine to my experiences, the stuff that I've went through, and try to stay true to that. So
Yes, sir. So the majority of your lyrics are from your personal experience in life.
exactly, yeah, definitely, yeah. If it's rather what I've seen, what I've done, or personally experienced, for
Yes,
sure.
sir. Yes, sir. And now that you're moving forward, and when was your first break that you got for Jay that says, I'm gonna be on the spotlight? Which video, which song put you out there? Um, with people recognizing you.
Yeah, I think it was Hardway. So like the one that as far as like in my city, that kind of got it like people actually understanding that he's maybe an artist that y'all need to pay attention to. He's a different. He's not saying the same things as Hardway. Yeah, if Hardway on all platforms, lilJay from the O. You got any time to listen to that? That's definitely one of my songs that I encourage you to listen to. It's just one of those songs that you can use. So yeah, for sure. Hardaway was definitely one of those ones. And then you go to, like where we're at right now, um, hopping on that Mike Jones beat, Texas Talk 2. That one has done millions of views. And I feel like that one right there is really what is actually like taking me further
Put you on the light spot.
from just outside of my city.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had multiple people reach out to me. So yeah,
How was that? How was that beginning? How did you came out with that song?
when I first wrote it and I had laid the track down, I knew it was gonna be something. Um, just because of when I would let other people listen to it, they would give me the same type of feedback that I had when I listened to it.
Hmm.
And it's just I mean, like, if you know Mike Jones, if you know anything about him, you know his hit song back then. So I feel like straight off the bat, the instrumental was just something that was familiar. And then the way I went on, going about my cadence and how I hopped on the beat, I feel like it was fresh,
Okay.
right? I didn't sound like Mike Jones, um, but it still sounded like Texas, you know?
Yes, sir.
So,
So how's that creation? Because that song, that's how I was able to find you. To be
yeah,
honest with you,
yeah.
what I mean, seeing it's everywhere, Instagram, YouTube, all of the above. So how was that created? Do you pick that specific song when you laid down the lyrics, or how was that made?
So I actually got a first song. It's called Texas Talk 1. And it's basically just me and it's four other cats, so a total of five of us. And it's called Texas Talk because that's literally all we do on it. It's just rapping, but it's at what we call Texas Talk. Um, and it's just Texas rap, Texas slang, and it's no hook. There's no chorus. It's just five dudes on the song that are just literally talking on the beat. So that's why I called it Texas Talk 1. And I knew after I shot Texas Talk 1, I had to follow up with Texas Talk 2. And and honestly, I didn't know how I was gonna go about shooting Texas Talk 2
Yeah.
until I got the beat. And when somebody sent me the back then beat, I don't know what hit my head or what made me think a light bulb for Texas Talk 2. But as soon as I heard it, I wrote my verse for it, and I already knew that that was what it was gonna be. Um, I mean, to the point to where after I dropped it, had multiple millions of views on it. I had Mike Jones reach out to me. Um, so yeah,
That's
I
dope.
mean, getting to the point to where the person that made the song reaches out to you, it was definitely one of those things where I was just like, wow, I didn't realize it was gonna do that.
How was that encounter?
It was bittersweet. It was a bittersweet encounter. I don't ever like to sugarcoat anything. But he told me, he's like, hey, like the song, but it's mine, at the end of the day. And
Yeah.
I respect it. Business is business.
Hmm.
So yeah, after that he put a copyright on me. So that's like it got kicked out of everywhere's. And the only place you can get it is on social media. But I feel like it's one of those things where like the devil tries to come in and he tries to block your shine, but God, he's like, you know what? I'm gonna make you shine so hard, it doesn't even matter. Because that's exactly what happened. You know, regardless of the copyright, it still did millions of views.
Yeah.
Still doing millions of views, and yeah, so but you know, shout out Mike Jones. We're still in communication, so maybe one day it's gonna be released everywhere. We'll see.
So that phone call motivated you to become
Oh
a
yeah.
different animal.
I mean, once you have like Mike Jones and you got their lawyers reaching out to you to put a fire out on you, I mean, that kind of got to tell you something right then and
Yes,
there,
sir.
right? You're doing something right.
Yeah.
So like regardless, you know, what the conversation may have been when they reached out, the fact that they reached out to me, I kind of knew that
You
I was on a
the right path.
on the right path for sure. Um,
That's great.
yeah. And then from there I just stay consistent, yeah, I'll never try to give me a moment where I'm stagnant.
Who's your is there anyone out there that you feel that you want to collaborate with? Someone that you feel like that will be one of good areas that would like to do something with.
Yeah, man. I mean, and when you see this, we gotta make it happen, man. But Paul Wall, we gotta make that collab happen. Like it's inevitable. Texas wants it. Like it's one of those things where he's a legend. So I'd love to. There's a lot of legends that I'd love to work with. But he's definitely one of the ones that I want to stamp. You know, want to get stamped from Texas. So shout out Paul Wall, man. Um, yeah, definitely one of them ones.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
As far as like Texas rap versus any other rap, is the culture. You know, like our culture is different, just like any other person's culture. And our culture it comes down to how our slang, how we talk, down to the cars that we ride, what we put on our cars, and the pride that we take in ourselves, just like any other person that would in any other state. When I get on the beat, I wear Texas on it. You know, you can hear Texas in my slang. You can hear it, you can see it. You know, when you look at me. So that's just one thing that I feel like, and not necessarily separates us, but it just puts us in a different box because we have, just like anybody else, we take pride. You know, on where we come from. You know, our background, you know, and of course the Texas culture, because it's a whole different ball game versus anybody, you know, any different culture. I feel like our Texas culture gets a lot of love and hate, um, just because, you know, of how we go about, you know, just carrying ourselves. So
You were before the interview, you were stated that you had a little interview or somewhere along those lines with the city of Texas. What was that about?
yes, sir, man. I just received my proclamation in my city, so I literally just got gifted my own day in my own city, which is a huge accomplishment. Shout out Jose, shout out Dominican J, shout out everybody that played a part in that. Um, you know, I feel like, you know, it was one of those things where I was so hungry, and even to this point, like I have my mind on different things as far as my accomplishments. But the fact that I was able to get that under my belt, I wasn't even expecting to get a proclamation, or I wasn't even working towards one. But when I got the email for it, and you know, I was gifted that, it was one of those things where I had to actually sit down and actually understand what it meant. You know, because like I said, I'm a ghetto kid that comes from the east side of Austin. So if you would have told that ghetto kid, you know, at that time, you know, 20 years later he'll have his own day in this city, I don't think, you know, I think he would have laughed at you. You know, so it's like one of those things where I don't take it for granted. And I always remember where I started, to you know, to where I'm at right now. But like I said, huge shout out to everybody that played a role in that. It isn't just me. It takes a team to do that. But yeah, man.
That's great. How was that encounter? You know, when you got that email, how do you? Were you thought it was a joke or?
I thought, well, at first, I was just like, why? You know,
Where's the
because
prank?
like, um, I know, I've done toy drives for my city. Like me and Montana, which is another artist that's in Austin. We've thrown toy drives to give back to the city. We've done different events to give back to the city. But there's people that have been established in the city and that's been doing stuff um, way longer than what we've been doing it for. Um, and for some reason another, I ended up getting this versus some people that I feel like deserve it as well,
Okay.
you know. Um, so first and foremost, I was super surprised when I got the email
Hmm.
to the point where I didn't believe it. But my a close person that I know that works with the council, he kind of reached out to me. He was like, "No, it's for real." He's like, "We made it happen for you."
Yeah.
He's like, "It's accomplishment. It's one of those things where you need to actually like, take pride in it.
Yes, sir.
Regardless of uh if you got it and whatever the situation may be for somebody else, like you still got to accept the fact that you've been out here grinding and you've
Hmm.
been working, and that's another thing that I try to I don't ever try to toot my own horn, so to speak. I always try to pay homage to where it's at, and I always try to give back. And I don't ever think about what I'm gonna get out of it,
Okay.
so when it came to me, I was just like, wasn't really sure how to take it.
Yeah, I
Um,
understand.
but
How did,
just grateful,
that's great.
grateful.
That's a great word. How did family took it? Mom and wife and everybody
They
else.
couldn't even believe it. They thought I was lying.
That
They thought I was lying.
it was a joke or something like that.
Yeah. Um, and then obviously we go out there to the city, right? And then I get my proclamation and I'm doing my interview. And I feel like at that time, that's when, they really actually understood what it meant,
Hmm.
you know? Um, but yeah, I feel like overall, what I can say is that they're proud of me,
That's great.
proud of me
That's
for
great.
sure.
Are you still doing plumbing or what is your?
So right now I'm not doing plumbing. I would say that I'm blessed as of right now that I'm solely just doing my music and trying to focus on my music. And I've been grateful enough to make enough money off my music to where I can take care of home. I mean, like I said, plumbing is always going to be a part of me, but I don't think that that's like where my story ends.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying? And uh I my biggest thing is I don't force nothing. I go with the flow. And currently this is just where my life's at right now.
Yes, sir.
And I'm not fighting against it. I'm just going with it. Um, but I'm licensed, so that's
Okay.
always gonna be under my belt.
Yes, sir.
That once you get the license, it don't go
It'll
away.
never go away.
So
That's right. So you're fully invested and become a full well-known artist out there. And then overall, thank you for like I told you when I picked you up, a message you never expecting for you to reply back. To be honest with you, because I have reached out to other individuals here. They're local here in LA. They haven't even opened the message. You know what I mean? And when you went out of your ways and reply back, at least say something, that eventually um, we started it up and you decided and went out of your ways as come to LA. Overall, starts from ground and I highly appreciate that. You know what I mean? Means a
yeah,
lot to us.
most definitely, man. I appreciate y'all. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate OGV that podcast for bringing me out here. Um, it's just one of those things where like you got to start somewheres, and me, I don't ever try to act like I'm too big to message back or get in contact with gente, because
Hmm.
it's like one of those things where I know Austin is the start of my music, but it's not the end of it's not where my music ends, like I wanna go to LA. I wanna be out there in different cities. I want my music playing, out here when I come out. I want to be booked out here. So it's like one of those things where like a lot of people tell you that it's going to be marketing that blows you up, or it's going to be doing this and doing that. But honestly, I feel like what's going to take you further than anything is rubbing shoulders with people, and networking, turning that network into net worth, and kind of learning the algorithm with that. Because relationships are forever, and
Yes, sir.
if you build them right,
Hmm.
the foundation for that can be
Correct.
you can build a mountain on it,
Correct. It
so
goes long ways.
it goes a long ways. So highly grateful for y'all just even considering me as somebody that y'all would, be wanting to bring out here. Um, yeah, because I know Cali shows a lot of love. And we, like I told you, I've had a lot of conversations with other people. But you're the first one to actually, pull the trigger on bringing me out here.
No,
So
appreciate that. Thank you. At the end of the day, have you had any a record company reach out to you on any type of talks about bringing you into their office or anything like that?
yeah, I've had a few reach out to me. And it just comes down to the numbers, like I feel like where I'm at, and like, I don't have no, up to this point, I don't have no label, I ain't have no team behind me. I don't have nobody other than the only person that I cannot forget or I can't not like mention is going to be my mentor, my, somebody that I go for whenever it comes to anything that's either if I have a question about it, either it's a legal question, rather whatever it may be, and maybe it's just sometimes just to kind of vent. But Dominican J is definitely one of those guys that I can't forget. He plays a big role into uh, basically making sure that I'm all around a great artist. And when people look at me, they can see that worth into me as well. Even if it's from afar, it's just like having the right conversations with people. Um, so yeah, man. You know, uh, yeah,
You're looking out to that man. He's
yeah,
the one.
most definitely. Shout out to Mick J.
Make
Yeah.
Jay. He's a rapper as well.
He's not a rapper. He used to be a rapper a long time ago. Everybody has, their in and outs with the music industry, but he's more of a like, just like a mentor for a lot of artists, not just in Austin, but he's actually based out of Miami. So he works with all different types of people. Um, but yeah, going back to your question, I've had labels reach out to me, try to kind of mentor me, try to be my manager and stuff like that. But they're not really, they're not. It's nothing that I'm already doing for myself,
Okay.
so I'm gonna keep my head down. I'm gonna stay consistent. I know my time's coming, and maybe in my career I don't sign a deal. Maybe I stay independent. There's no one way of doing this.
Yes, sir.
So I'm trying to figure that out too.
Yeah,
At the same time trying to understand my worth.
that part.
So um, I've had a lot of people reach out to me, down to, even with LA, I've had Concrete, major shooter, huge shout out to Concrete. He's a major staple, I feel like, out here in LA,
Hmm.
when it comes to comedy. But even out there in Texas, I mean, anytime I scroll up on my phone, there's not one slide that I can't, every third video is
Yeah.
probably going to be him on it. But I had him reach out to me, talking about closing all his shows in Texas. So like opportunities like that, you know, down to the Coyotes reaching out to me. Shout out to the Coyotes, doing a collab with them. It's just like different situations and um, different opportunities are falling in my lap, and this is done with no label. This is just me.
Yeah.
So I mean, this is for me. I'm looking at this as the tip of the iceberg,
Yes, sir.
on what I can actually do with it. So
So on a personal level, would you rather be independent or would you have rather deal with the industry with the contract?
honestly, that's what I'm trying to figure out. So I think as of right now, I would want to stay independent, um, just so I can understand my worth a little bit more, and understand a little bit more about, like, if I had a manager, I probably wouldn't even know about how to go about booking myself, or like the in and outs of a contract, because I've done features, and I didn't even know anything about a contract, and then people talking about contracts and situations like that. So I feel like knowledge is power, and the more that you exclude yourself from that, that's just a less, another thing that you just don't learn.
Yeah.
You don't know.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm not saying that I wouldn't ever sign, but I would definitely, as of right now, I'm just trying to see what I can do independently.
Yes. So you want to learn the steps and make sure that you're,
Yeah,
very comfortable.
exactly.
If that ever happens, will you feel that you need to feel good being part of that label?
yeah, I definitely need to feel like they're gonna go 10 times harder than what I'm going for myself, and I feel like the opportunity's got to be 10 times greater than what I'm doing for myself. They just got to come all the way around harder, you know. Like the opportunities have to be there. It has to make sense. Like um, yeah, and then obviously like they got to know how to market me,
Yeah.
because I can go anywheres, but there's situations where like you gotta know how to market yourself,
Well,
and if
I think you're already doing it. Some of the videos, I'm sorry, that you have posted, they're from different small business that they eventually
yeah, no,
help you,
yeah,
right?
shout out Larry Gomez, Gomez Western um clothing. They went ahead and sponsored me. I get and the same people that sponsor Mexican OT, down to the hats, boots. I mean, they flooded me out.
Jeez.
So shout out to Gomez, but he's just one of the very few people that reached out to me and kind of just want to be a part of the process,
Hmm.
right? And kind of just want to see another Mexican flourish, and be great. So yeah, there's a lot of people that come over here and that reach out to me not wanting anything from me other than just wanting to bless me with, rather it be putting them on their platform, or a sponsorship, or rather it just be just showing me love and giving me a shout out, because even that goes a long way,
Yeah,
but yeah, had a lot of people tapping in and trying to show love different ways, and I appreciate all of it.
that's great. How,
you know
how does that make you feel knowing that these companies or this small business are believing in you? That says a lot.
yeah, it does. It kind of like going back to um everything else, it just adds more fuel to the flame.
Hmm.
Um it gives me a reason to get up every day and go twice as harder. uh every day I wake up, I look at it as like I'm still the underdog. And the people will probably still look at me as the underdog. Um, but I feel like every day I still got something to prove. Um, and I'm always hungry. So uh, I think that's gonna take me a far way uh, further. They say if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. So I'm just trying to make sure that the people that I go with, I got a right team,
Yes, sir.
the right people around me,
Hmm.
so that I can go far.
Correct.
So
What is what motivates you in life?
um, I feel like the what ifs in life, or the could be's, like, cause I already know what it is, like if I stick with the plumbing and I already know what that life is, and what I don't know is what if I do go with my music? What if it does work out? It's like the
Hmm.
what ifs in life. Um, but also like wanting a better, like I told you, my upbringing. I come from sticks. I really don't come from any like my family didn't have money. It was one of those things where we had to work for everything that we had. And still to this day, we got to work for everything that we have. So we take pride in that. So being able to switch the narrative, not just for me, but I'm talking about for generations, that's my goal. That's why I get up. It's not just so that when I wake up every day, my household is taken care of. I'm trying to think about a little bit more than that. So yeah, it's just I think the possibilities of what it could be is what gets
Yes,
me
sir.
up every day.
And it's the sky's the limit even more.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
What has been the advice that you gotten from someone that it has make changing within you?
Um, I think I think the best advice that somebody has gave me is not to dwell, and not to give, like, not everything needs a reaction. Because when I first started, I felt like I always had to explain myself, or speak up for myself for certain things and certain reasons. And as I start growing, not just as an artist, but as a person, I start to realize that I have less and less to prove to people, um, and more to myself. And as long as I'm at peace with what I have going on, then I don't necessarily need to be out here trying to, prove a narrative or whatever it may be. I feel
Hmm.
like the biggest thing people lose sight of is focusing on what they got going on. There's a lot of distractions, even down to the point where you open your phone and you see somebody doing something that you wish you could be doing, or you know, whatever the case may be. I feel like we get too much in our heads about that, and we just need to dial it down and kind of just focus on what we got going on. They say if you chase the grind, everything else is gonna come with it.
Yes, sir. Yes,
So
sir.
that's what I've been doing. I just been chasing the grind, um, and whatever comes with it comes with it.
That part. How does Jay deal with regrets and disappointments?
Man, man, I really don't try to deal with them. I really don't regret. See, the way I live life is that everything. I feel like everything happens for a reason.
Hmm.
Nothing is a coincidence. Like there's a reason why something happened, and why you're in that situation, or whatever it may be. But I feel like, God has a plan. And I'm not sure if everybody has, believes in God, or whatever it may be. I wouldn't consider myself a religious man as well. I don't go to church every day, but there is a God that I pray to. And I try to stay close to him and try to just understand that, um, uh, just because you had a bad day doesn't necessarily mean you have a bad life.
Hmm.
So, um, I try to keep it pushing with that.
Trying to make the best of it at the end
Try
of
to
the
make
day.
the best of it.
Where do you see yourself 5 years from now, Jay?
I see myself on tour. I see myself being bigger than what I am right now. And if I have it my way, I promise you, I'll probably be one of the biggest, if not the next biggest thing out of Texas. Um, I want to just put on. I don't want to just put on. I mean, like Texas is one thing, but I want to put on for all my brown people. Um, I see myself being a huge artist. From a year from now, with the grind that I got, the connections that I'll end up making. I can go far with it. I feel like everything is just strategic. It just depends on how you go about making each move. And you know what they say. You got to make your next move your best move. So.
Definitely. With that being said, Jay, let's say you are able to see that kid, when you were 5, 10 years old. You know, you didn't grow up with your dad, and probably didn't believe in yourself. If you had the opportunity, Jay, to chop it up with the kid, right? What would be the advice that you give that to him?
But all I would tell him is that it gets better.
Hmm.
Because that time when I was like 6 years old, or growing up with no father and my stepdad, and dealing with that. Um, I just kind of didn't necessarily. I didn't see myself being anything great. It's kind of one of those things when you're told something a lot, you kind of start believing it.
Hmm.
You know, so I was told for a lot when I was younger that like stupid and retarded. These are the words that were kind of like I was surrounded by. So I kind of I kind of looked at it as that.
Okay.
Like I would end up being something stupid, or like doing something stupid, getting in a situation to where you know I I validate what they've been calling me all this time. So I would tell that dude, I would tell that kid that it gets better, and just stay consistent. Yeah, because I feel like at that time he was just, and I feel like any kid, that had a hard upbringing, they it's easy to lose themselves as far as like, you know, having any type of faith of what they can be when they grow up and stuff like that, especially when you don't have that type of support around you. Um, because I always had my mom, and stuff like that, but she wasn't, she didn't know how to be there like that,
Yeah.
you know. So it was just kind of one of those things where I always just kind of had to um instill it in myself, that I could be more.
Self motivation, right?
Self motivation. Yeah, because everything else was eating me. It was
Yes,
getting at
sir.
me. So
What doubting yourself with growing up with that part? What made you change? What made you said, you know what, fuck that, I'm gonna
I think
change?
I think having my kid. I think having my kid when I was, when we found out when I was 16 years old that I was gonna have my kid. I didn't have my kid till I was 17. But when I turned 17 and when I had her, I knew that I wasn't gonna be anything like my stepdad, and I refused to be anything like my dad.
Hmm.
You know, and it was gonna be up to me to change that narrative. Um, so that honestly, that's what fueled me every day. It wasn't music. It wasn't trying to be an artist. It was just trying to make sure that I was there, you know,
Yes, sir.
just for my daughter. Um, and fast forward, I got 5 kids now.
Wow.
So yeah,
5
yeah,
kids. Wow. How do any of your kids are fully understanding what do you do for a living or where you're trying to get into?
yeah. I feel like all of them understand. My oldest is 10. She's like 10 going on 18,
Hmm.
and then I got 10, 8, 6, 4, and that, all the way in numbers in between. And I feel like every single one of them has a little bit of a grasp and understanding
Hmm.
of what I'm trying to do. Um, but definitely my oldest, she's been there, and she's seen the grind, she's seen the struggle, she's seen all of it. So it's kind of one of those things where she asked me like, when I get home and stuff like that, or today is the day where we buy our big house, and
Yeah.
stuff like that, and I feel like we're all kind of just getting ready for that change because we all know that it's coming.
Yes, sir.
It's not a matter of if, it's just more of when. And my daughter knows, her daddy's a hard grinder. I'm not gonna stop until it's done. So I feel like that's one thing that my oldest can definitely see, is that she sees it, she sees the music, she's seen the grind, and she sees what it took to get to where
To
I'm
be
at.
where you're at.
Hmm.
Definitely.
Maybe don't understand it 100%, but
Hmm.
definitely gets it.
Yeah. I feel they do understand. Their kids are really smart.
Oh, they are.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, very smart. Um,
Anyone wants to follow your steps? Let's say want to do a little rapping here and there, or
Man, they all play around with the singing and rapping and stuff like that. Like I said, it's a part of my household now. Like, we always have music playing, or I'm always recording, or I'm always doing a video, or I'm always dropping a promo video, or
yeah,
I'm doing something with music. So like them trying to escape that, it's like inevitable.
yeah.
So yeah, my daughters, I always joke with them and I tell them, like, they're gonna be like the next Beyonce, or it's just a little bit of polishing. That's all you need me on,
Yes, sir.
you know.
Yes, sir.
But yeah, they love it, man. It's one of those things where I don't ever try to push them. I'm not. It wasn't nothing that anybody forced me to do. It was just something that I did. So if they choose to go that route and they pick up a mic or they pick up a pad and they end up doing that, I'm gonna be 100%,
Supportive.
supportive. But
Mhm.
I'm not. I. It's not gonna hurt my feelings if they don't.
Yes, sir.
You know.
Yes, sir. Overall, thank you for, like I said, getting out of your ways and coming through LA. It's highly appreciated.
Thank you for having me.
Is anyone out there that wants to reach out to you and maybe get you out there for a concert or something like that? You wanna share your information to the viewers?
Yeah. lilJay from the O, first and foremost, for my music on all platforms. Just put it all together. LILJAY from DAO. I'm on all platforms. Instagram, you can hit me directly for booking. Like I said, I don't have no management, so everything goes through me. IG lilJay from the O _02. I'm out everywheres. Anything that you can get music on, that's where I'm at. But huge shout out to OGV, that podcast, for bringing me out here. And yeah, man, only way is up from here. So
Yeah, yes, sir. With that being said, thank you for your time. Highly appreciated, Jay.
thank you.
Support the homie. When we chop it out, him and I, we told him that when Raza get together, we always do something brighter. You know what I mean? And this is one example. At the end of the day, always remember that people will respect you as much as you respect yourself. So, Jay, thank you. See you in the next one.
Thank you.
You got fucking